Hello, my name is Ness Sarda, and this is my presentation about the Trevi Fountain. So, just a brief introduction here. The Trevi Fountain is located in Rome. Its construction finished in 1762, and the style of the fountain is monumental Baroque classicism. The name of the fountain, or the name Trevi, actually comes from the word trivium or trive, which was a three-way intersection of ancient Roman streets that surrounded the original placement of the fountain on a map. The architecture of the fountain is accredited to Nicola Salvi and Giuseppe Panini, and the fountain is actually destroyed and rebuilt over 3 different times. The water that runs through the fountain comes from the Aqua Virgo, which is a aqueduct located in Rome. The coins collected from the fountain actually go to charity. And the material for the fountain is actually the same material that the Colosseum was made of. It just doesn't come directly from the Colosseum. I thought a timeline would be the best way to show the deep history that the fountain has. The first important event that we're going to discuss is in 19 BC when Marcus Agrippa brings water to Rome. And this picture over here is actually a picture of the Aqua Virgo, which we previously mentioned. In 1414, the earliest plans can be seen for the Trevi Fountain, which is right here. And these plans were drawn by Taddeo di Bartolo, and they were actually for the Piazza di Trevi. They weren't for just the Trevi Fountain by itself. In 1453, Pope Nicholas V hires Alberti and Bernardo Rossellino to embellish the fountain. So he's the first to make an alteration to the fountain. Now, Pope Nicholas V was known as the Renaissance Pope, and the alterations he makes to the fountain, or his version of the fountain, is known as the Renaissance Fountain. And this picture over here, as you can see, it has his name on it. And I thought it was important to include this picture because there's not actually that many drawings of that version of the fountain before Bernini destroys it. So, it is also speculated that Giovanni Vasanzio may have altered the fountain in some way between 1617 and 1625, but there's not a lot of evidence of that. Now, Pope Urban VIII becomes the first pope to order the destruction of the fountain. He orders Bernini to do this in 1443, and this is also when Bernini starts to build his foundational plans for the fountain. Now, we're going to jump ahead here just a little bit, talk about Bernini. So, Gian Lorenzo Bernini, who we actually talked about previously in class, we discussed his sculptures, Baldacchino, David, and Ecstasy of St. Teresa. But we're going to talk about his effect on the Trevi Fountain. Now, he creates his own version of the Trevi Fountain he designs, but he never actually gets to pursue those. But what he does get to do is create new foundations for the fountain, a new placement for the fountain, and he alters the Piazza di Trevi, which then has a lasting effect on, how the fountain is presented, and later adds to how the fountain is able to become one of the most famous Baroque fountains. Now, he does this by first destroying some smaller buildings around where he wants the new placement for the fountain to be. This allows the fountain to appear grander, allows for better spacing within the piazza. And his new placement allows one to see the fountain in full view from the Quirinal Palace, which is a papal structure. The Trevi Fountain is an urban structure. He builds a relationship between these two places. That is the first step. The second step is by moving the fountain, he allows for Cardinal Mazarin, who later becomes the Prime Minister of France, fun fact, to build a church relatively close to the Trevi Fountain, further adding these different structures to play off of each other within the piazza. Unfortunately, today, only the attic of the Trevi Fountain can be seen from the Quirinal Palace. So, his plans for how these structures play off of each other has been slightly altered since 1643. This was due to the construction of the Palazzo Castellani in 1869, which comes between the Trevi Fountain and the Quirinal Palace. The last thing that happens to the fountain involving Bernini is that, jumping back to the timeline here really quickly, Pope Innocent X Pamphili removes the water from the Trevi Fountain between 1648 to 1651. Now, many popes actually move water around closer to their place of residence. It's meant to show power because water is a life-sustaining resource. It's a very common practice. But he moves that water to Bernini's Four Rivers Fountain in Piazza Navona, and it stays there for 3 years. That's really the last thing that happens between Bernini and the Trevi Fountain. Finally, one of the reasons that Bernini actually was not able to build his design for the fountain was because the money that was designated for it was taken and spent during the Wars of Castro. Back to the timeline. Pope Alexander VII dies in 1667. Now, this is important because, similar to Nicholas V, he is also invested in restoring Rome's grandeur, and he, spends a lot of money on different architectural projects. This stops when he dies, the economy falls, and it is not stable again until Clement XI Albani's rule begins in 1700. And at this point, the fountain is essentially neglected for about a century, not touched again until 1728, when Paolo Benalgia does some brief work on the fountain under Benedict XIII. Now, Benedict did not have a very long rule, and Pope Clement XII becomes the new pope after him. And one of the first things he does is he actually sentences Monsignor Jacopo Sardini to prison, who was the supervisor for the Trevi Fountain project under Benedict. Now, he is also known for holding the contest for the new and final design for the fountain in 1730. So he holds a design. The winner is not chosen until 1732, which is Nicola Salvi, the main architect of the project. So Nicola Salvi begins his construction in 1732. He dies in 1751 and never gets to see his masterpiece finish. Giuseppe Panini then carries on his work and finishes it in 1762. And in 2014 and 2015, they did install some lights so that it looked cool at night, which is this picture right over here. Now, this is Nicola Salvi on the right here. So he was born in 1697 in Rome and is actually best known for the Trevi Fountain, which he unfortunately never got to see finished. He actually lost the contest originally to Alessandro Galili, but the decision was overturned by the people of Rome because Nicola Salvi was native to Rome and Alessandro Galili was native to Florence. It is believed that his design for the fountain was influenced by Pietro de Cartona, who also creates his own version of the fountain, and Metastasio, who makes a play about the adventures of Oceanus. Now, to delve into the Trevi's design, he creates this single row of Corinthian columns and pilasters here. There's a crowning attic that can be seen at the top. The whole thing works together basically as the stage of a theater. It is meant to portray the adventures of Oceanus, who is seen in the middle here, and we know it's him because he's riding seahorses and surrounded by tritons. On each side of Oceanus are some statues representing abundance and salubrity, and reliefs, which are these little pictures here, are just above those statues, and they tell the story of Marcus Agrippa. There's actually, one of them shows the picture of the Virgin, which the story of Marcus Agrippa is that they go to Rome to get the water, the Virgin gives them the water, hence the name Aqua Virgo. And at the top here, the attic is actually Clement XII's coat of arms, because, he does commission the work, essentially, and his name is seen here as well. Some closer up pictures so here's the coat of arms in the attic, Clement's name, Benedict's name is also on there. Here is showing the scale in comparison to the Piazza di Trevi. And fun fact, there actually is a building in the piazza that is as old as the fountain itself that still stands there today. And here are just some clearer pictures of Oceanus. He's on a shell. These are the seahorses and the tritons, abundance and salubrity. And the reliefs, this one has the Virgin, and this is Marcus Agrippa and his men, and these are the steps that lead up to the Piazza di Trevi. And these are my sources. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation and learned something about the Trevi Fountain.